Hey everyone, this is Cameron, the co-host and editor of Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcasts, or give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. We are where podcasts can be found. If you can, consider supporting our Patreon or just following it. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about the wild world of Annecy, post-Annecy, and animation in general. And now, on with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And, of course, everyone's favorite crazy lemur, Bree.
I'm currently melting.
As am I.
Same.
Thank God I had the AC turned on literally right until we were recording, but
it actually got hotter for me after the sun set. It's going to be 102 tomorrow, and I hate it.
I know it's going to feel like 100 tomorrow, but enough about that. We've got a great show for you tonight. We are talking a lot of Annecy. We're lucky to see a couple films from the festival, Blaze and Julian, and also we do have to talk about Toy Story 5. But first, we've got some trailers to talk about, so Cameron, what's on the dock for today?
During Annecy, before Annecy, and after Annecy, we had a bunch of trailers pop up because a lot of us were on vacation when all of this was happening. And this includes Shrek 5, which I think a lot of y'all are overreacting. Not that I don't understand. Okay. It's a bad first impression. I don't think it's a very good one. It's not because of the new animation. It's been a literal, decade plus since we got a mainline Shrek movie.
I mean, it's been closer to 20 years at this point.
Well, yeah, I don't like thinking about that. I'm already feeling old, okay? Especially after finding out that, Aardman is, 50 years old. And it's I'm sorry, what? But I don't think the jokes were good. And it's, I understand. There's that weird, uncanny feeling of, this is not how the characters moved or looked the last time I saw them. But even by 2011, when the Puss in Boots movie came out, they were already moving away from the hyper-realistic humans. And by 2010, that look was already looking kind of off. DreamWorks, as mixed as an animation studio as it could be back then, they were trying to help break that curse of CGI cannot do humans yet. They tried. And all things considered, the humans for Shrek worked until they stopped. And it doesn't help when they do that little continuity thing where Rumpelstiltskin still looked, for the third movie, looked kind of whatever in the third movie, but then in the fourth movie, when he's the main villain and such, he looks weird with the over-exaggerated large head and eyes, and that the humans still looked weirdly human. And then with the other ogres, where they had the super uncanny realistic faces on top of ogre bodies.
Yeah, that is clear growing pains, DreamWorks, because I feel by How to Train Your Dragon, they finally got people right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So by the time, after How to Train Your Dragon came out, it was okay, they broke the curse. And then Shrek 4 came out, and it was ugh. It was already looking weird. So the humans and the designs looking as they do now is not that big of a stretch. I did like some of the texture work. And even though it's almost 2 decades too late now, I did get a kick out of the spoof from Frozen. Do you want to date a snowman? And it's some of it look on a visual level, it looks fun. But the human writing, oh man, it kind of makes you wonder how relegated the main Shrek films are to the pop culture fairy tale parody world than Puss in Boots. Puss in Boots felt like a normal fantasy adventure that just so happened to have fairy tale elements to it.
It's it feels like compared to The Last Wish, Shrek 5 is kind of going back to
basics. because I actually felt a little bit better about this than I think a lot of people. I feel like the humor and the tone feels closer to Shrek 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, really, you can't get any worse than Shrek the Third. Just, oof. That one just felt like...
Yeah, like, in hindsight, trying to make Shrek a kid's franchise is one of the most baffling decisions that DreamWorks has ever made.
It's like the first movie, like, yeah, a family could watch it and enjoy it, but a lot of its humor and dialogue, like the way characters talk, is very adult animation. Like Simpsons adult animation.
Yeah, like light swearing. And lest we forget Shrek 2, like, I'm sorry, how many, like, 8-year-olds were gonna pick up on the OJ White Bronco joke?
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, but then, like, going, like, more childlike with the third and fourth film definitely didn't work out in its favor. The fourth film tried to go back to 1 and 2 humor, but it just wasn't working. It didn't help that its story was just kind of whatever.
Yeah, unfortunately, like, the story, I feel like, is very, like, early 2010s DreamWorks-itis.
Very, very DreamWorks-itis. Then we also got the trailer for, I think it was almost like the same day, for Hex, the new Disney
Literally
film.
like an hour later.
Yep.
So I've seen it on my TV, I've seen it on my computer, and I've seen it on the big screen. I know the artists and the writers and the directors are working under Disney, which Disney is very controlling with how they perceive their image and what kind of animated films they make, even if they let a Hoppers through. But I don't think I've seen such a negative, tepid response to a Disney movie in forever.
Yeah, it's for sure been a hot minute. It's getting to the point, honestly, like, I'm not one of those, what would Walt do, guys? But I legitimately think Walt Disney would be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, it's like, they could have, like, again, we know about the production nightmare of, it went from a mother-son story to a mother-daughter story. And how characters look and feel should, like, not that we can't have tomboys and such. It's more like, this feels like a step backwards. And when I'm thinking of, like, oh, this looks like Disney's Brave, that's a no-go for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have to tell you guys that Brave's probably, like, one of my most hated films ever. And I saw that on a Disney cruise, and I kept passing by John Stamos. And I had ice cream. I had every incentive to like that movie.
And you still hated it.
Yeah, and with each viewing, I'm like, I actually think I fucking hate this movie. But I'm gonna say something really mean for a sec. And this isn't a slash on the artist. Again, this is, like, all, like, Disney, like, not wanting to invest in, like, updated, like, software and, like, invest into their animation department. So this blames squarely on them. But everything of this movie's aesthetic just feels like a quirky South Jersey mini golf course.
I could kind of see that. And it's not like I didn't like some aspects of it, but it did make me think of, like, better, more whimsical settings. Like I said, to you two, I like the book design and how it talked. It reminds me so much of Banjo-Kazooie, which... better pack it up right now. We're never going to get another Banjo-Kazooie game with current day Microsoft. Like, fuck. And fuck you, Sony, by the way, with your stupid going digital future. No. Sorry, I had to fit that in because...
No, it's okay. You know it's, like, bad? When Nintendo seems like the most consumer-friendly company right now.
Lord. And but... you know, it's like, it's just funny. Disney, you had a Magical Girl show with its own unique sensibility, style, humor, and chaos to it. Wait, you canceled it halfway through production of season 3, had to force it to be a couple of specials that had to rush through a few things. And you are now acting like the Owl House doesn't exist. And it's funny because, like, the directors were interviewed and they were talking about the whole reaction online to where everyone was like, is this made for TikTok because of the camera and placement of the characters and such? And it's like, no, this is how setting up a shot works, but it doesn't help that it translates well to a TikTok, like, montage. Yeah, it just doesn't look very good. And I would have been much more excited about this if they just kept it as a mother-son story. Like, you could still have Haley Steinfeld and Rashida Jones, but I don't know.
Again, like, Disney's whole thing, and this is honestly, I mean, maybe it was always there, but I think it became more pronounced, you know, during the early, like, Lasseter years. But, like, the Disney animation studios just being, like, weirdly, like, gender segregated is really weird. Because during the Renaissance and before that, like, Walt Disney Animation made, quote-unquote animated movies for boys. But that kind of stopped by, like, the early 2010s.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And it's like, I'm not even bothered by the whole thing. For some reason, so many guys are like, well, that video game, that show, that movie has a female lead. I can't watch it, play it, or talk about it because I can't relate to it. And it's like, shut up. It's just like, there's nothing super unique or refreshing about the movie's magic or visual look. And it doesn't help that it came out like maybe a few days after Pixar's Gato's trailer got released. And Gato just looks amazing. And like exaggerated, cartoony, lively with that painted art style that they're, of course, taking inspiration from, like The Last Wish. And it was like old school Pixar. But with Hex, it's like, Disney, you gotta take some chances here.
Yeah, it's like Disney's greatest leftovers.
And it doesn't help that, like, that one author of that one witch comic was like, listen, I'm not saying they stole my ideas, but it's like, no one owns evil white-haired witch, but...
It's pink-haired witch, but yeah.
Or pink-haired witch, but it looks an awful lot like it. And... again, it's a victim of Disney just not being adventurous or experimenting more. Like, you can't, like, okay, fine, you have your look, but you could at least... No, it just doesn't help when it looks so played by numbers next to the Forgotten Island second trailer, which showed off...
Oh yeah, that looked fantastic.
It had the anime visual style, it had the Last Wish mix-up of, like, facial emotions and animation and character designs. I am so glad that someone on the animation team somehow got the Peter Griffin dead on the ground position when the werewolf got smacked into the tree. And it just, like, it has so much more energy and passion put into it. And maybe it's just because it's Joel Crawford and the guy who did the Last Wish team, and just how, like, drenched in love with Filipino culture it just
has, like, that authenticity. And I think that's the biggest problem with Hex, is this, so much of it just feels, like, so artificial, so inauthentic. And going back to what you said, Cameron, about, like, Disney's, like, lack of, like, visual diversity, historically, Disney has not been like that. Like, yeah, you have, like, certain Disney characteristics or, like, eye styles, but historically, you wouldn't say, like, Sleeping Beauty looks the same as, like, Atlantis, because that would be crazy.
No, they have tried visual differences before, but unfortunately it seems like every time they do, nobody goes and sees the movie, since Sleeping Beauty was, unfortunately, a bomb back in the day. Even though now everyone's like, oh, it's one of my favorites.
But that's, like, the thing, like, as controversial as the figure as Walt Disney was, he at least took chances. Like, sure, shit bombed. But he didn't just like, oh, I guess everything's gonna look the same now. Even during the Xerox era.
Yeah, no, they tried hard, okay? It's like, but let me say this. Does Hex look better than Angry Birds movie 3? And part of me watching the Angry Birds movie 3 trailer was like, maybe Hex actually looks decent. Which is not, well, it's not. My opinion has not changed. I just had a like a very negative reaction to the Angry Birds movie 3 trailer, which it's like, it's already like, doesn't look great because it's a Paramount movie. I'm basically boycotting Paramount this whole year to see what happens. And they haven't really given me a reason to go to the theaters because I'm sorry, I'm not going to go see a Jackass movie that's only 50% new stunts.
Also, the other thing with the Angry Birds trailer is I don't think that's Sony Pictures Animation doing it. I'm pretty sure that's DNEG.
I think it is someone else because it doesn't look like...
It is DNEG.
Because it doesn't have the snappiness that Sony Pictures has. Like, say what you will about the franchise. It's not a very good franchise. But that second movie is so out of left field hilarious. And Thurip Van Orman, who did, The Misadventures of Flapjack, he went there. He took a movie franchise that is substantially nothing and just did all the jokes he could think of that would be funny. And they were all very funny. To see it go back to kind of like the first movie, it's like, I think we lost the plot with what Angry Birds was all about, which wasn't much anyway, but still. I mean, like, Mike, what do you think?
I mean, the only reason I want to give it some benefit of the doubt is because Thurp Van Orman is still credited as a screenwriter, but yeah, without Sony Pictures Animation's snappiness of the animation, it's not saving any of the the potty humor that's like pretty much the entire back half of this trailer.
This whole movie franchise has a weird thing about pissing jokes, and it's like, really? This is the legacy of humor we're going with this movie. 2 out of 3 movies have extremely weird pissing jokes. And even though, like, it was kind of funny in the first one, just because of, man, they're dragging this thing out, but it kind of reverts back to being kind of funny. But here, just, and like all the bird puns and just like, oh, Red's a dad now. And I don't know with what I was expecting. And even with Tim Robinson in it as a pig named Porkchop, if I recall. It's like, I don't know what to expect from this movie. I don't think I'm going to go see it. Like I said, I'm not really seeing anything Paramount because until Paramount gets denied that merger, I'm not going to see your movies. Fuck you for being owned by the Ellisons. So, but that's it for the trailers. Now, before we get to Annecy, and we got a few screeners from Annecy, but we're going to do like a part 1 and a part 2 for next time. So, before we get to part 1, where we just talk about the overall reception and news and stuff, we do have to talk about, in memoriam, Luis de la Rosa, famed animator from Across the Spider-Verse, My Little Pony, and Knights of Guinevere and stuff, passed away tragically while at Annecy to pitch his new show there. 34. 2 years younger than me. That's way too young. It's so heartbreaking that he died because he got hit by a train. And
I mean, what can you say other than it's a complete and utter tragedy?
Mm-hmm.
Just really freaking sad. He was there to pitch his own original show at Ash Raider World, and then to have his life end. And it's just like, another creative lost. And we could have had something really cool and really special, and someone that a lot of people spoke extremely highly of. It's just a shame. Just utter tragedy. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It sucks that he passed away. It just sucks.
I mean, not only was he a talented person, but this was, a young guy who had his whole future ahead of him. I mean, yeah, he was on, like, some mainstream films before that, but, working on stuff like Knights of Guinevere, like, there's a high likelihood, even if you're the most casual of animation fans, you've seen his work.
He worked on multiple things. It wasn't just Spider-Verse. It wasn't just Space Jam. It, like, My Little Pony the movie, Carmen Sandiego, My Dad the Bounty Hunter, Claudio for Chance of Meatballs, Archibald's Next Big Thing, and Animaniacs. And he also worked on Andrew Chesworth's short, The Brave Locomotive, which is a really good short. It had everything ready for him to become one of the next great big known animators. It's heartbreaking. Again, 2 years younger than me. Just, I can't handle that kind of reality that people who are younger than me can die. It's like, no.
I know, and especially since it's such a random, thing that happened, just completely out of nowhere. But I did like, some of his colleagues, some of their words. I think Del Toro said something. Dana obviously, worked closely with him, so hearts out to her and all of his other friends and colleagues, but just what a loss. It's something that's supposed to be fun, because I'm sure if it was me there, and I doubt people disagree with me, it did kind of put, a bit of a cloud on the event.
I mean, it's just it just overshadows what was otherwise an extremely strong Annecy, because there was a ton of announcements and a lot of cool films playing there, a lot of interesting works in progress, pitches, a lot of cool things and interesting news, only for then, obviously, we'll get to the AI bullshit that still permeates this festival, and the infamous Brad Bird interview. Like, we'll get to that, but let's continue on. Let's talk about and celebrate the world of animation that was Annecy before we get into the lesser parts of it. Let's just call it as it is. A lot of interesting stuff. Like, of course, Aardman came and they announced a few new series on top of a documentary that's getting made about them and a autobiography that Nick Park is writing about. It's called Grand, and it's a autobiography of Gromit, written by Nick Park. I want to own that book.
Same.
And then, of course, Aardman talked about a new Shaun the Sheep spinoff called Let's Go Timmy, which follows the youngest sheep character from the Shaun the Sheep series, which that was going to happen. If they can have like a potential pre-K spinoff and such, this was probably the right direction that they were going to go in. But it's also Aardman. Even like their kids shows still have way more charm to them than like most animated shows in general.
Oh, yeah.
Do. Then they also, of course, talked about the new Shaun the Sheep movie, The Beast of Mossy Bottom, which looks great. And apparently they talked about a new young adult series that they're doing called The Almost Untold Story of Danger Delilah, which there's no trailer footage or images from it. But that's going to be interesting to see because Aardman has worked in adult animation before with Rex Runt. But I think the one thing that people were most excited for was we were finally getting some more information on Pokemon Tales, The Misadventures of Sirfetch'd and Pichu, which I think is going to premiere next year, if I recall.
Something like that.
And it is such funny timing to get this, to see like this be official and such. Because they teased it last year, but it was just kind of like a teaser for like with very little showing. And this seems like such a Aardman style show, like miniseries or something like that, with Sirfetch'd being this arrogant, loyal knight, even though in the image, he looks like he's about to walk off a cliff. And then with Pichu, and of course, while this was announced, I was playing it with my friends a Pokemon Dungeons and Dragons game. And one of the people in that game is a Pichu paladin. So it was just like, I had to show them this. And I was like, is this like a prequel story to your character, dude? And, oh, it looks cute. It's Aardman. It's probably going to be pretty good. And probably the one guy who can get away with everything, not fully, but can get away with all the bullshit going on with the animation industry. Genndy Tartakovsky made 2 announcements. He's working on a Conan the Barbarian series, which I'm interested to see how that goes, because I think it's showing on Amazon Prime, if I recall.
Yeah.
Like, how is that going to be different from Primal and such? Because Primal is so distinct, and just to see Genndy work on Conan the Barbarian, it makes sense. He's worked on like that Korgoth, the Barbarian pilot that Adult Swim didn't want to pick up because it would cost too much. Freaking Adult Swim and your freaking budgets. Genndy also announced that Heist Brothers, which was shown off 2 years ago, is going to be a series. And it's about 3 frog brothers attempting to rob a bank. And you can look at a visual of it, and it looks really funny, and it's got that 2D Genndy stylization to it. So it's probably going to be pretty funny. I have my trust in Genndy. I know a lot of people were like, well, what about Fixed? And it's like, listen, that was just fine, but that's not on him, because it sounded like it went through a couple different iterations.
Over like 20 years.
I give him grace for that.
Apparently Joe Pera is making a new, like, something for Adult Swim too, or the first public screening of his pilot, My Two Cars. Then, of course, we got a little more of the Common Side Effects Season 2, which I am so hyped for. Because
Same.
Common Side Effects was amazing. Brie, have you seen Common Side Effects?
I've been meaning to, but I've seen like parts of it, and I've heard incredible things.
Watch it when you can. It's so freaking good. And then, of course, they got a little bit of a preview from the Rick and Morty spinoff, President Curtis, which, Mike, are you still keeping up with Rick and Morty?
Honestly, I fell off after season 6. Not necessarily for lack of interest, it's just, well, you know, our slate has been getting thicker lately.
I just feel like this spinoff is still, once again, too little too late to be doing a spinoff, because Rick and Morty has kind of hit like I'm not going to say stagnation, but it's become less the greatest quote-unquote adult series of all time, but to now just kind of being whatever.
I think Rick and Morty's just kind of returned to like what it was supposed to be in the first place, and that most of the most annoying Rick and Morty fans have gone elsewhere, so it can just kind of be the show that it wants to be. But yeah, I agree with the spinoff. Like, this feels like something that probably should have come out around the same time as the Rick and Morty anime.
Right. And even in that anime, like, threw people off and wasn't that well received, so we'll just see how that goes. I'm a little, like, eyebrow raising with the fact that Disney is making two different shorts that they're going to play in front of, I think, like, Hex and Gato. Like, one of them is a Finding Dory short, and it's like, do you really want to have Ella DeGeneres back? I understand, like, Finding Nemo and Finding Dory the movie were like, I liked Finding Dory fine, but I don't know if I want to see any more from that kind of universe, especially with after all that happened with Ella DeGeneres and what came out about her being a horrible person on set. So it's like, why are we going back to this and then basing it around the one character played by the one person who is not a great person? But I don't know.
Do we know if it's around Dory, or is it God, I'm forgetting her name. Rob McElhenney's wife. You know, Dee from Always Sunny. God, like, her name is just slipping by me right now.
Let's see.
She voiced the whale shark.
Yeah, that, I know who you're talking about. Let's see. Caitlin Olsen?
Yes.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, there wasn't a lot of information about the short, so it could be it.
Well, here's the reason why I think it's her, because her character, is one of the, characters that was like really popular for that movie, but also she's on an ABC show right now, so
yeah, right. I'm just saying, like, you could have made a short, you could have done the two sea lions with Rudder and Fluke, or you had the freaking the fish tank crew, Gil, Bloat, Peach, Gurgle, Bubbles, Deb / Flo, and Jacques. Like, you could have, I mean, we'll see what happens with that short, but it is interesting to see Pixar be like, oh yeah, right, we do have another franchise we could mine. It doesn't just have to be Toy Story, which...
It's like, the one you're gonna mine is Finding Nemo, which, lest we forget, like, how insane Finding Nemo Mania was, that, like, a number of attractions were permanently changed to Finding Nemo in the process.
Exactly. They're also making a 2D CG hybrid short with Lilo and Stitch called that's going to screen with Hex. And it's interesting because I saw I think the director of the short say, like, you won't be able to tell that it's CGI, which I'm sure people are going to tell. There's just a different fluid movement that comes with CGI that 2D doesn't have.
But one nice thing is the little girl who did Lilo in the live actions reprising her as animated Lilo.
If nothing else, I do think that's kind of cool that someone from live action is stepping into the world of animation.
That Lilo's finally being voiced by an actual native Hawaiian.
Yeah, nothing against, what was her name? Davy Chase?
Yeah, who recently passed away, but that's like a whole thing, and I'm like, I hate that I knew it was like drug related.
Yeah, same here. A lot of Batman news with Absolute Batman coming out. Joker's getting his own anime, which is being directed by the same person who did Chow. And
okay, that's a detail that I didn't know, and that's cool.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they also direct the Batman Arkham anime from like back in the day?
Yeah, one of the shorts, the one where he fights the Scarecrow. But yes, you are correct. That's pretty fitting. And of course, they also showed off some stuff about Mr. Miracle, which I can't wait for that. Definitely going to be very interesting to see how they do that. Everyone is getting kind of weirded out by the Joker one because they're just like, Batman got shot and the Joker's the good guy. Well, the main protagonist. And it's like, that makes sense. The Joker is the one supervillain who would go to extreme lengths to find Batman's killer. Like, what are you guys talking about?
No, I think it's like the most original idea that they've had with Batman in like years.
Exactly. And C.H. Greenblatt is working on a crypto animated series. The Super Dog, not a...
I know what you meant.
I know. I just hate that I have to say that. And they, of course, showed a little bit about My Adventures with Green Lantern, which...
By the way, Are any of you caught up with My Adventures with Superman season 3?
Not fully, but I'm there.
I need to catch up, and also X-Men 97, like the first 3 episodes dropped today, so
I know, I've got to get on that too.
I know, but I did see Ali Cuvalio's character.
Yeah, that's going to be great. Then, of course, they also talked about a Starfire series, which they're making. Hayden Walsh is returning to voice her, which is funny because they also announced a Bubblegum and what's the name of the vampire girl?
Marceline
series, which everyone's like, that makes the most sense, but also, is this going to be made and released before Paramount comes in if the whole merger goes through? Before Paramount's is like, ill, two ladies who love each other, gotta can that.
Well, I normally I'd be worried, but the fact that Adventure Time makes so much fucking money for that company.
That's true. I just worry because of how mergers will and do kill half of this shit that happens and such.
Well, if it was another IP, but I think, Adventure Time's just such a well-established IP. I think if you're a non-Adventure Time show, I would be a little bit more worried. Lars and the Stars.
And then, like, Super Mutant Magic Academy, which is being run by the guy who did regular show.
Quintel.
Yeah, which looks really cool and fun. They showed off a little bit about the Yokoso Scooby-Doo, which is the anime that's coming out for Tubi of all places. And it's continuing the weird legacy of nobody likes Daphne, Velma, and Fred enough, so they give new side characters to Scooby and Shaggy. I get it. It's just funny every time that happens. It's like, hey Shaggy, where are your friends? I thought you were friends. What happened? But yeah, so I mean, like, Warner Brothers got a lot of cool things in. Like I said, there are a lot of cool animated films. There's a new Ninja Scroll project happening, which, if you know anything about the original movie, it's going to be very interesting to see how that unfolds. And a new original project, or I guess short, that's getting turned into, like, I think a bigger project called Living in a World Without Magic. Nippon Animation is celebrating 50 years. And one of the new shows that they're making is called 20,001 An Earth Odyssey, which is a riff on the Stanley Kubrick film, which is just about a bunch of aliens who arrive on Earth and try to figure out what happened. It's basically going to be that Love, Death, and Robots short, the 3 robots. I feel like that's what's going to happen. Like, a lot of cool little things. Crunchyroll is shockingly diving into European and French animation.
They legally have to.
Yeah. Because France was like, listen, streamers, if you're going to work in our country, you're going to have to pay and invest into our projects. So give me that cash. So
I wish more countries had the balls that France has with funding their arts.
I really wish it did too. Like, Crunchyroll is one of the partners behind the upcoming work in progress of The Wolf, which looks really good. And they also got a new magical action adventure series, I think. Dreamland, and it looks very French anime, which not the most weird thing. Of course, but one of the biggest announcements from Annecy was the preview for Forgotten Islands, the DreamWorks movie, and apparently from just a preview, it got a 5-minute standing ovation, and I don't think that's common at Annecy. I think Annecy crowds are much pickier than the con crowd.
And this isn't actually the first time that they showed the movie like in its entirety. I'm still kind of jealous of anyone who went to CinemaCon and saw the unfinished version there.
Ooh, that sounds nice. Illumination has their new original film Not Alone, which it looks cute. I think the trailer for it looked charming enough with Timothée Chalamet and Selena Gomez. I did not pick up who the aliens were voiced by, but I think that looks good. It's very interesting to now get so many of these teasers for new movies coming out. And it's like, man, we still got half a year until this thing comes out. Are you guys going to be able to pace yourself with this? Because I feel it's like when I see this on the big screen, it's going to be like, I like it. I think it looks great. And then the 50th time I've seen it, I'm like, I am so sick and tired of this trailer. Just put the movie out already. It's going to be one of those situations.
I will probably end up feeling the same way, but honestly, I like this trailer quite a bit. I'm excited that it sounds like from that interview that I read that like Illumination is trying to be a little bit more into more original projects and not just relying on their big ticket items.
Which is good. They need to do that. All these studios need to do that. WB was like, their big thing was, hey, we gotta rely on artist-driven projects because we see what happens there at Disney. It's not pretty. So we're going to do that because that was the big takeaway from Warner Brothers was their new movie lineup is creator-driven first. Like, yeah, you can make fun of the whole cat in the hat thing, but still. They showed a little bit of, well, I think this was a big shock to everyone. Vizzy Pop is directing a movie at Warner Brothers for Prehistoria. And boy, howdy, am I going to have a good time, sarcastically, looking up the reactions and justifications from all of Vizzy's shitty haters and harassers about why this is not a good idea.
The internet was a mistake.
Well, it's just like they'll complain about her doing anything. And even though we are not the most passive fans of hers, we know to still be respectful as hell about this because the whole thing with this, like, this is extremely important. If WB are serious about all these movies that they're making with creators first, then they gotta let the creators cook. There's Bad Fairies, the dynamic duo. What else do they show? The Lunar Chronicles. Yeah, Megan Nicole Dong is behind Bad Fairies, and she made Centaur World. So we'll just have to see how all that goes. Just a lot of cool, interesting projects coming out. And then, of course, we still have the new Daffy Duck short that'll, I think, play in front of Coyote versus Acme.
If that's true, then that's awesome because it's Warner Brothers lending their art to another studio,
Yeah. And then, of course, Paramount, showing up to the party when nobody invited them. Was like, hey, we got a new movie by the guy who directed Prey, Dan Trachtenberg, to helm the animated feature Friday the 13th. Which, okay, I hope it's good, because otherwise, I'm still not seeing your movies, Paramount. And it doesn't help that some people were kind of looking at the poster or the picture of it and were like, that's not AI, is it? In some of the details on the poster and such. Which I know we're kind of hitting that point where people just have to realize that sometimes it's an artistic decision on the poster and not just AI. But I also understand because we're all just kind of paranoid right now because of how AI is invading the art world. And, well,
we need a little bit more venom to spew at that, but one thing I do kind of want to talk about is the animated spin-off for Bahubali, The Eternal War.
Yes, the big animated film from India that is getting collaborations from everyone. I mean, not literally, but every studio is pitching a sequence to Bahubali, and I just think that's cool. I know a little about the animation scene in India. This would not be the first time that a Japanese studio would collaborate with India, because Studio Ghibli helped make an animated feature based off of one of India's most famous folklore tales, which is still not available to own.
Mm.
I saw it once in 2022 or 2023, and haven't seen it again, which sucks because it was really cool. Just the exact wrong movie to play when it's late at night, 9 o'clock. So before we talk about the ickier sides of Annecy, let's talk about the winners.
Yay!
So for the first time, there was an audience award winner, award for the special prizes for the, I think, out of competition screenings, not the Contra Champ, but what was the movie people liked the most? And Brave Cat was the winner, which is by the same studio and director, Gabriel Osorio, who did the Oscar-winning Bear story. And Brave Cat looks actually pretty cute. It's got that kind of faux stop-motion felt look to it, which looks a lot of fun. But the big winners of the Annecy categories for both Contra Champ and the main one One of them was like no shock. It did well at Cannes. It was going to do well here. So the Cristal for a feature film for the jury award went to Iron Boy or Le Corset. It also won the Gone Foundation Award for distribution, and also won the Audience Award. So that's like no big shock. But the Cristal Award went to The Violinist, which was a Singapore mixed animation like collaboration with other studios and such. Yeah, Singapore, Spain, and Italy. And I think a lot of people weren't expecting that. I think a lot of people were thinking like Tangles or something, or like Viva Carmen would take it. But no, it was this one film from Singapore, which Singapore does have an animation scene, but I do not know a whole lot about it.
I would like to know more about Singapore's animation scene, but still, good for The Violinist.
And then Decorado took home the Paul Grimault Award, which I was a little shocked by. I didn't know if people would have been, like, down for it. Not just because of its dark subject matter, but just because it technically came out last year. But I guess people were, so good. Congrats to Alberto Vasquez.
Also, it's like, it appeals very French. Even though it's a Spanish film, like, I get it.
Exactly. And then Blaze took home the Contrachamp Grand Prix Award. And then Toshi's Shinomiya's A New Dawn took home the Contrachamp Jury Award. One of the things that I noticed about Annecy this year, besides a killer lineup, was the fact that there was no real talks about distribution. Like, last year, during the whole festival week, G-Kids was like, hey, we bought this movie, we bought this movie, we bought this one, and that one. Not a whole lot of stories about that, because unfortunately, and who knows, they could be in talks right now, in negotiations and such. But I felt like there was something kind of telling or worrying when out of the whole week, G-Kids' only comment was, hey, we're releasing the 2 anime Evangelion films. Not the reboot films, but the ones that came with the original series.
Yeah, End of Ava, right?
Yeah, End of Ava and then Times Square or whatever it's called. The clip show movie. And I'm wondering what was going on. Neon wasn't picking up anything. A24 is too busy investing in the AI to pick up anything, I guess. But G-Kids, I guess we're just like, we're not ready to announce anything yet. Like, I know Netflix bought In Waves from Khan, but it's like among the Ghostbusters Night Shifts or the Charlie versus the Chocolate Factory announcements, it's like, really, none of these films are in your alley? I think a lot of them would be, but fuck us, I guess.
Yeah, I am just kind of wondering, maybe it's just because last year they were like so gung-ho that like this year, like, you know what? Let's maybe take a step back.
Which like I said, they could be talking about it right now, but you're looking at all these movies like Muyi or like Bahubali and such, and you're telling me that none of this stuff was like, yeah, this is good enough. We're going to pick this up. Because unfortunately, one of the big takeaways that stole a lot of air and spotlight from Annecy was AI. Because once again, for like the 3rd year in a row, Annecy let AI made shorts into the roundup. Well,
bleh.
And one of them was the whole fiasco of Danse Macabre, which, listen to this, 75 oil paintings, 30 plus artists, 4 countries, and it took 11 years to get made. And then, out of the blue, he was like, yeah, you know what? I used a little generative AI trained on my art to help finish his project. And he was acting like there was a protest, obviously. There were walkouts. But he's acting like there was a bigger witch hunt going on. It's funny. You cannot say you are aware of the risks of generative AI taking jobs when it has taken jobs, and then be like, everyone stop yelling at me, stop being mean to me. And it's like, you took 11 years to get this made, and yet you decided to finish up with AI? You couldn't have gone past the finish line doing it yourself? I'm sorry, but you might as well have just submitted it unfinished if you needed generative AI. Even if it is trained on your art in there. And I don't get it. I don't get it. How he's just like being such a baby and acting like I'm the victim here. And it's like, no, you're not. And then Marcel Jean, basically the head of Annecy, was like, this is a witch hunt. I deplore the demonstrations followed the screening of the short film Danse Macabre, directed by renowned Dutch filmmaker Hisco Hulsing. While I understand the concerns raised by the potential use of artificial intelligence within the industry, as well as worries surrounding intellectual property and employment, I cannot condone a witch hunt targeting the works of artists who explore the possibilities of these new tools for transparency. And it's like, okay, you were transparent about it, but you also come off like a line-crossing grifter and scab because you are willing to push forward without the risks. Ignoring the risks that, hey, you know what, maybe if you get another animation job, they'll just say, hey, we can replace you with AI. You're out the door. Bye. What a stupid thing for the director to say, because nobody's on the director's side now. And Marcel Jeans continues to be kind of a shitty person by saying, we can't ignore the possibilities of these new tools. It's like, anytime this happens, anytime some out-of-touch celebrity talks about how AI is the future and we have to accept it, all I'm going to ask them is, who paid you? Who gave you a bag of money? What luncheon did you go to? Because you're just vomiting out the same things that, like, Demi Moore said at the Cannes Film Festival.
Just admit that you got a shit ton of money.
Yeah, or, like, it's as cowardly as Dwayne Johnson being like, yo, man, I don't want my politics to derive my fans, even though everybody knows he's a Republican. It's like, fuck off, dude. Like, you cannot say that. It's like that whole stupid UFC fight on the White House when that one schlubby, mediocre comedian that nobody saw his new movie, The Breadwinner, was like, yo, man, I'm just here for the fights. I'm not political. Huh, you're at the Trump White House. I guess I see where you land, buddy. You can't say you're political and then go to a politically charged fight event. It's like this here. You cannot have AI in a festival that is cherishing, tributing, homaging, and worshipping and celebrating the world of handcrafted, made by humans animation. I don't care if this director used his own work with the AI. Nobody likes it. What are you expecting people to be like, this is cool, AI's the future? No. People are like going to be like me and wondering, why didn't you just finish it like you were doing for the past 11 years? I don't get it. It just overshadows so much of the joy and love that's supposed to be going into Annecy until Brad Bird happened. And someone decided to actually put his feet under the charcoals and ask Brad Bird about not only his new movie, Ray Gun, which premiered to apparently solid impressions, we'll see, about why the hell he's working with John Lasseter. And he's just like, well, you know, it's a complicated, messy history. And I went with him because it's like, I have history and they were willing to fund my movie. And I didn't want to work with Pixar because Pixar was going to change my image, like the image of for the movie I had, which...
About that.
Yeah, but when they were pressed about working with Lasseter, he's like, hey man, those are messy and complicated situations that I have, like, no real answer to give you. And it's like, you do have an answer. You have worked with John Lasseter long enough to know about what exactly is going on. And the reason you're going back to animation is because your live action film career died. So you're basically like, what he's saying is basically, I am overlooking the risk and working conditions put upon by the animators having to work and deal with John Lasseter's lackluster visions and control to get my movie made. I understand. It sucks to have to go to any studios or any shitty people just to get your movie made. But at this point, with all the train wreck nonsense that is going on with the industry, I feel like Brad Bird has enough goodwill to not have to go to last. But I feel like that says who Brad Bird is. He doesn't really care. And as long as he gets his movie made, he's going to grease any palms he needs to, even if it means working with Lasseter, who nobody has any goodwill for anymore.
Nope. Mm-mm. The irony, though, of him not wanting to go to Pixar because they'll, change his vision or whatever. Seeing some of these stills of Ray Gun, it doesn't really even look all that much like his signature style. I don't think his explanation holds that much water.
And he's not even working with Skydance, because they were like, Skydance can't do what I want. So we're going to go to this, I think the same studio that worked on the Nimona movie. So...
Yes, that's also DNEG.
So what can they do that Skydance couldn't? And if you were going to use a different studio anyway to animate it, why not just go past Lasseter and just say, hey, Netflix, I got a movie. that I want to get made. I mean, yeah, Netflix sucks in other ways, but at least you wouldn't have to be working with Lasseter.
It's the thing is, it's not like, I mean, Netflix doesn't give bags out like they used to, but they had no problem giving the directors of K-pop, like, you know, a $12 million like signing bonus for like the sequel.
Yeah, so it's like Netflix is aware of what they can do. It's like that whole interview, because it's like Brad Bird gave such a bad answer, but also not an answer, because it's just like, dude, just say you don't mind working with shitty people. I get that's kind of the industry at points, but
I mean, it's just reaffirming like the worst that people like already had in the back of their heads.
yeah, that you just don't care about working conditions because you want to get your vision made. So it's disappointing because I want Annecy to be this bright, great spot of celebration for animation. And not only did it get tainted by some of the shit that was going on, like, I don't know, it's just frustrating because it's not like the Paramount and Brad Bird were like the only bad people there, but it's also like all these studios kind of messed up in some way, except for like Netflix and Warner Brothers. Like Prime Video basically said, "Hey, we got more of the same. Don't you like that?" And it's like, "Well, do you have anything new?" And it's like, "No, we don't." So all we have are more Has Been Hotel, Hell of a Boss, and Critical Role stuff, which isn't bad. I mean, like, I know we're getting a new Invincible season, which, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure the animation will technically move.
Barest definition of moving. Yeah, it was just like a weird thing to happen throughout Annecy was just like not only the sad, tragic death of the one artist, but also then just AI sneaking in to a world that is not welcome, where it is not welcome, and then Brad Bird just being like, "Yeah, I can't talk about this, really." And it's like, yes, you can.
And it's like, no offense, Brad, but you're kind of being a pussy. And if you were a real man, you would just admit, hey, you know what? I don't give a shit about women. I don't give a shit about my colleagues. I'm making this. Because, I mean, to me, that would actually have, you would have balls if you did that.
Because then it's just like, congrats, you're not on the animation Mount Rushmore anymore. Congrats, bye. Which is, it's just disappointing because it's like, I love the Iron Giant. And while I think The Incredibles is a little overhyped as a Pixar movie, I understand why it's loved, even though I just think the sequel's okay.
The sequel's fine. I think The Incredibles is good. I feel like Ratatouille is a better movie, but I think it's the dialogue. Like, the dialogue and the way The Incredibles is written is, like, so smart. That's why it's one of my go-tos if you want to learn how to write dialogue, watch The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Agreed. And it's not like, well, and it's funny because it's not like Brad Bird saying, I don't want to work at Pixar. Well, what are you doing working on Incredibles 3 then, as a writer? Okay, so makes sense of that, but whatever. Speaking of Pixar, let's move on to Toy Story 5. And I'll talk about this one thing about Toy Story 5 for the next episode, because this was just the Annecy episode, and now next episode will be like how 2026 is in animation so far. Who was expecting the response that Toy Story 5 got when it finally came out? Because due to Disney's shenanigans alongside Pixar's shenanigans, I was a little shocked with how positively received Toy Story 5 was.
I mean,
I am, and also I'm not, because I think people are just, I don't want to say shill because it's not quite that, but I feel like since Toy Story is such a proven commodity, people are probably willing to give it more passes.
I mean, you're not wrong, but also the only reason I wasn't surprised by the critical reception is just because there has literally never been a bad Toy Story movie, and you know, we'll get into why this one is, well, something has to be the weakest, and this just kind of is exactly that.
Well, to me, it's like when I saw Toy Story 5, and maybe it's just because I had a rowdy audience and there were like a few kids who just could not stop talking throughout the movie. Not like consistently throughout every single second, but just because. But they were just like every 10 minutes or so, this one kid would ask a question and such. And it's just like, I don't want to be the young adult looking like the jerk for telling a kid at a family movie to shut up. But that kid needed to be quiet. Like, I'm sorry, if your kid cannot be quiet during a movie, then don't take them to see a movie. I'm sorry, I go to the movie theaters to not talk to anyone. Sorry.
I mean, unless they're like little, like if they're like 2 or 3, like I get that. You know, I mean, for me, I'm more amused by it because I remember when I saw Inside Out 2, there's this little girl, like, she had, like, the wiggles and stuff. I'm like, it's still, like, a family movie. Like, I don't think you can get mad at shit like that. I mean, it's kind of cute.
Not. Yeah.
But it's like, if it's an older kid, like an adolescent kid, then it's like, at this point, like, you should know better.
Well, that's the thing. I think they were more adolescent and such, but I could be wrong. They could have been much younger than I was thinking. But I will say, one of the kids that was talking, when jumping ahead a little, when Bonnie and the new girl, what's her name?
Blaze?
Blaze, yeah. When they finally got back together, like as friends, at the end, that same kid who was talking was like, finally! So it's like,
Oh, that's great.
that it was such perfect timing. And it's just like what Patton Oswalt said in his new special, Tea and Scotch. I am a follower of great comedy. And that was one of the greatest punchlines of the movie that wasn't from the movie. So the big thing with this new movie is, I think it's kind of a mess, but only because so much of the front line marketing for this movie was all about how Lilypad, or, the Leapfrog education toy parody or homage, was supposed to lead like this big threat towards technology against toys and be like how technology is bad, but it never quite focuses on that as a plot point, because really what the plot of the movie is about Jessie and dealing with her overcoming her abandonment issues by literally getting taken by a kid, Blaze, who just happens to be living there with her family, that happens to be where her old owner used to live and such. And I thought that was more compelling, but the movie just had to keep jumping back and forward between Jessie's own plot and then Woody and Buzz being in the movie and having to deal with Lilypad taking over Bonnie's life. And listen, I understand the perspective of this. What are toys now in a modern day setting? Not just like technology. I just mean like, who buys toys these days? Unless you're a really little kid or you're a toy collector or like a content creator on YouTube that talks about toys. Like, toys don't really matter these days. Like, in terms of just normal playing things and such. Like, it's kind of amazing that some companies are still around, despite the fact that, like, we have video games, TV, movies, and such taking over toys. Like, I feel like that would have been an interesting concept, but at the same time, it's like, this is just Toy Story 4 about Jessie and such. But I don't know. I guess I'll talk about a few things I liked. I did like the voice cast, even though you could probably just take out Woody and not miss anything, especially with the fact that Tom Hanks and Woody were just not in the movie a whole lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm okay with them taking like a backseat in the franchise, but it really just seems like they're only there because it's a Toy Story movie. I hate to say it, but like, it kind of feels like they didn't have enough confidence to let Joan Cusack lead this on her own.
But like, Jessie's like one of the most, if not the most beloved Toy Story character next to Woody and Buzz. She has enough character to do that. Like,
I mean, she's been in like 4 out of 5 of these movies.
And in the specials where she plays like a major part of it. Where like she deals with her trauma of being abandoned inside a box and whatever. So it's like there was enough there. It was just so frustrating seeing the movie be like, oh, we gotta have Buzz and Woody. When I think you could have just been fine with Jessie and Buzz. Maybe Woody as like a cameo and such, but bringing back Woody and then just doing a bunch of I'm old and even though I'm a toy, I'm somehow fat jokes, which I don't know how you make that work. Though, again, Tony Hale as Forky comes in with some of the better punchlines during that whole sequence.
His delivery of, it's because you're bald, Woody.
It's like, what are you talking about? It's because you're old, Woody. And another highlight was, of course, Conan O'Brien as Smarty Pants, which I know some people were saying, like, well, the low battery being, like, symbolizing drunk joke was done in Big Hero 6. But Conan made it funny. Like, Conan's pretty much the highlight of this movie. And I love his animation of how they make him move around and has that little sticky gummy hand toy, and just how they mix and match his animation to match like him leaning like his head onto a hand and such, like looking nostalgically at the childhood photos of Blaze on one of the new characters, Snappy, this little kid's tech digital camera. But then that just kind of means that like Lilypad does not play a whole lot into the movie itself. She's supposed to be the big bad guy, but that's taken up by Jesse's whole arc. And then, of course, we gotta talk about it, the highly advanced Buzz Lightyear toy army that happens to comes in and out of the movie, which granted had some of the better jokes and like fun animation gags, but felt very Deus Ex Machina to the plot. And I know some people will be like, well, you don't know how movies are made. And it's like, yeah, but would you miss anything if they were taken out?
They served the same function as the aliens in, well, the first 3 Toy Story movies.
Yeah, they're just kind of there. And so we're like, well, it was funny. So many of the side characters are once again pushed away. And I'm just realizing more that this movie kind of needs the old school veteran comedy actors to balance out the more modern tech or like the more modern storytelling. I don't think like Ham, Rex, Slinky, and Mr. Potato Head have not played any kind of importance into the plot since Toy Story 3. And Forky with his new wife, Karen Beverly, are not in the movie a whole lot. It's like, you got all these characters. Though, it's funny, they apparently had enough money to bring back Annie Potts as Bo Peep, Kristen Schaal as Trixie, and Keanu Reeves as Duke Kaboom. But they couldn't get Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele to come back as the 2 stuffed animals, which weren't they like the most liked new additions outside of Forky from Toy Story 4? And they just bring back their characters as non-speaking cameos.
It is kind of funny.
It's so weird, especially with the fact after we kind of now are getting ammunition for that one comedian who was like, yeah, I'm going to kind of shit talk Keegan-Michael Key's wife because she's basically ruining his career. But I guess they also had enough money to get a Bad Bunny as this pizza with sunglasses toy that only shows up for like one scene.
Well, I mean, Benito probably would have just done it. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I mean, because it's freaking Toy Story. But, like, I'm not shocked at the replacements. I think you forget that both Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader were replaced for Inside Out 2 because Pixar didn't want to pay them.
No, I remember that. I get it. But it's just...
No, like, I'm not shocked that's happening. But here's primarily, like, my concern. And this is a question I have to ask both of you. Is Toy Story starting to get into Star Wars territory? And by that, I mean... are we kind of like going through the motions, and are we just kind of doing the greatest hits?
Yes and no. One of the differences between Toy Story 5 and 3 and 4 is there really is no pretense of finality. For better or for worse, this just feels like another Toy Story movie. As opposed to... so Toy Story 3 was the end of the Andy trilogy, and Toy Story 4 was Woody's last adventure. This just kind of feels like... this almost feels like a feature-length version of the specials that we got in between 3 and 4.
It feels very small scale, especially with the fact that, like, Lilypad becomes more of a good guy near the end. And, like, how she was like, oh no, I messed everything up because I let technology disconnect us. Which, again, decent idea for a plot device. But you either need it to be about Jessie, or you needed it to be about Jessie and Buzz stopping Lilypad. Because it just feels like there wasn't a strong through line for all of that. And for a movie that's trying to be about, like, technology for kids of a certain age is bad, they definitely use technology to save the day. It was funny because I watched this podcast and I was watching one of the hosts have a crash out about it, about the ending and such. And I was just like, oh, that's an overreaction. I think I disagree heavily with how you're responding to this movie. But then I thought about it more. And with the fact that, like, Tom Hanks recently was like, hey, if I'm dead and they need Woody to come back, they can just put me back in with AI. And it's just like,
No.
No, Tom, no.
Tom, 2 decades ago, you were, like, talking about how you were worried about how movies like Final Fantasy The Spirit Within we're going to replace real actors with digital ones. What the hell are you on now with, I don't mind being brought back with AI if I'm dead? And it's just like, well, then I don't want Toy Story then. They didn't do that with Mr. Potato Head or Slinky's voice actors. They got Blake Clark for Slinky and
Bob
the
Berg.
great, Jeff Bergman as Mr. Potato Head, and he sounded fine. You could probably do that with Wallace Shawn if he ever leaves this planet. They already replaced Timothy Dalton as Mr. Pricklepants with John Hopkins. So obviously there are ways to do this without AI. And this is like the same time period where Jeff Bridges went on a podcast and was like, yo, look, I can make songs with AI. And it's like, dude, I'm glad you're still around, but God. But I will say another positive. They did shake up things with the different animation style when they were doing the whole play sessions. Like imaginary play with the toys and such, where they had a more watercolor painted look to the character models and such. It looked really good. And the sequence with Blaze playing with the toys with Smarty Pants and Jessie was really funny because they got Alan Cummings to voice Bullseye as like an evil secret agent in the play session.
I love that so much. Just to pick up where you left off with that, that's the kind of stylistic change that gives me more hope for Pixar's future than Disney, because at least Pixar is willing to experiment the way that they were kind of in the beginning of their existence.
Yeah, so when the movie was focused on either Jessie's story arc or how, yes, we do have to be careful how technology can alienate and distance kids even further than it already does these days, is a fine story beat. I just wish it chose a lane. Or at the very least, have Buzz Lightyear alongside Jessie. Because Buzz doesn't really do a whole lot in this movie, which is funny considering there's like 30 of him. And then there's that one okay gag where he tells all the Buzz Lightyears, saying like, hey, guess what? Zurg's my dad. And they all at the same time just go, no! Otherwise, I just thought Toy Story 5 was just fine. I'm not saying I don't get why people like it. There are definitely some decent story beats. It's Andrew Stanton. I don't expect bad things when he's touching animation. R.I.P. What was this live action movie that got...
John Carter.
Yeah, R.I.P. John Carter in that one movie he made at Sundance that got critically panned and shoved onto Hulu with no fanfare. But it's just fine. I think if they are going to make more, and they're going to make more, take out Woody. You don't need Woody. Woody's arc is done. You don't need him. Like, if you're going to do Toy Story 6, 7, 8, whatever, follow new toys.
Yeah, like, low-key just soft reboot it. Because also the numerical things, I just see, like, the Toy Story 5 graphic, and I don't know. It irritates me, because it's like, they haven't come up with, like, another title. It's just, like, numbers. It's just, I don't know why. I guess maybe it's my OCD. It just bothers me for some reason.
I get it. It's...
Because it's not like they can't do that, because they did, like, Toy Story, the toy the time forgot, and, like, Toy Story of Terror. They can do, like, different titles.
Right. And it's like, that's what a lot of movies are doing these days, because they don't want people to feel alienated by, this is the 5th film, I now have to watch 1 through 4. You don't have to watch Lightyear, let's just say that. But yeah, like I said, I thought it was okay. I liked aspects of it. I wish there was more Buzz and Jessie together, because their whole dynamic in Toy Story 3 was great, especially when Jessie was just like, don't worry, Woody, we're going to be fine, because I found Buzz's Spanish mode. And Buzz is like, my what?
If they were smart and they really wanted to pander, they could do, like, period piece, like, Toy Story. So then you can have, like, toys from every era. Like, do a 70s Toy Story.
I'd be down for that.
Or like an 80s Toy Story, or something like during that big toy boom of the 80s and such, where you had like all the crazy, chaotic, like made for boys toys, like Inhumanoids, Mask, you know what I mean? Like all those like crazy toys that like shows that were trying to be like G.I. Joe or Transformers but failed horribly in some way or another. Like there are so many places you can go to. I think this is done. Buzz, Jessie, it's done. Woody, done. Move on to someone else. Or at the very least, if you have to have a cameo, make like I don't know, like an 80s toy Woody, like an 80s reboot Woody or something like that. Because that's happened before. Like Lupin the Third almost got like an 80s sci-fi show that never made it off the ground until it got retooled into Inspector Gadget.
I know this is going to sound so cliche, but, and I almost feel like Nobry bad for saying this. We never get anything from like Andy's dad, and we know Woody was his owner.
So you want to see one where it follows Andy's dad as a kid, maybe?
Yeah.
I could see that. But yeah, they'd have to be careful about that because they tried that with Lightyear being all like, this is the movie Andy saw. And it's like, I don't care.
But they could do it in the 70s because let's just assume like Toy Story came out in like 95 and Andy's what, like 7? So Andy was born sometime in like the mid 80s. So like if it was about Andy's dad, it would have to be in the 70s.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of too late to say whether I would recommend seeing this or not. I say wait because, I mean, this is coming out like the same day. Like, we're recording this the same day as Minions and Monsters comes out. So we know that'll be pushing Toy Story 5 aside, but...
I mean, I'm sure I'll watch it eventually. I have a secret to confess to both of you. I still have not watched 4.
Okay, you're done with the podcast. Bye. No. No, I'm kidding. No, that's fine. Like, I like 4 more than most, but I understand why people are like, Toy Story 3, the epilogue, and all that stuff. Because...
Which, I don't know why, because I was obsessed with Toy Story growing up. I like Toy Story Land. I just never had, like, a burning passion to watch 4.
I think we're gonna have to now, like, off record and such, to see how you react to it, because now I'm curious. Like,
yeah, I'm actually kind of curious, too.
So, yeah, it's... Like, people are going to see this. I can't stop them. I'm not going to stand there in front of my Alamo and be like, don't go see this movie. And it's like, what else are we going to see? Well, I don't know. Good point. But I don't have anything else to say about it.
The industry is dying.
Yeah. There's just not much competition right now. And it just doesn't help because of how we watched Blaze and Julian back to back. And Blaze, like I said, was the Contra Champ winner. And this is the one that if you've seen any footage of it or seen an image of it, it's like that exaggerated human, like realistic look. And
I mean, it reminds me, like, what if Angela Anaconda was good?
That's exactly what we said when we watched it.
Exactly. And it had a very interesting story because it's about this family, this mother, father, and son, who are all trying to find love, bonds, and connections throughout their own, like, respective lives. The boy wants to be loved, like, wants to find a girlfriend or a friend. The mom wants to be loved by her coworkers because she's starting a new position at a rock company, and she wants to be loved by her coworkers even though she's going to be the boss of it. And the father is just looking for any kind of acceptance and want. And this movie is so French. We say that as a joke, but it's like also why it is really interesting because like nobody comes off like really terrible in this movie. I mean, outside of a few side characters, but it's like that painfully awkward yearn for connection that we all have. Like you want to be... I think the most realistic thing about this movie is when Blaze goes to a party because he was forced to by a friend of the family. Friend of the family's daughter was saying like, well, I'm leaving, so I'm going to go. I don't have time to hang out with Blaze. I'm going to a party. Well, why don't you take Blaze with you? And Blaze gets stuck there at the party. And he's just like, I want to make connections or friends with someone here, but it's like, I don't know anyone here and I don't know if I can or will want to. And everyone's been there. They went to a party that they weren't really wanting to go to, but then ended up there anyway. And it's like,
It is the most awkward thing to be like at a party that even if you were invited, like you don't know anyone, you're out of your comfort zone. And like, I felt that so hard watching Blaze being an awkward wallflower.
And then, like, this whole movie is built on dry, darkly comedic interactions alongside complete misunderstandings of the situations at hand. Like, the mom completely fails at befriending her coworkers at first. Because the coworkers are like, let's have fun and celebrate because you're new here and such. And then she's like, no, we gotta get to work, and accidentally becomes too stern for them, and now everyone is afraid of her. And she's like, no, wait, I'm the cool boss. I'm the fun boss. And they're like, come on, let's dance some more. And then everyone's like, I don't want to dance, but I feel like if I don't, I'm going to get fired. And the dad, oh God, when he was just taking his mom to a checkup at the hospital, ends up finding the one area of the hospital that's using apple-flavored cleaning equipment that it's funny, he says this to the therapist, who, by the way, is not the family therapist, but Blaze's school therapist that he goes to.
Even more pathetic. She's just the school's counselor, not necessarily a therapist.
But he goes to her for therapy, and he tells her, I have a allergy towards apple-scented or flavored cleaning stuff. And he gets there in the hospital, he ends up there, and he's probably choking and dying because of an allergic reaction to this stuff. And everyone's just like, what's going on? Are you okay, sir? And he's like, no, I'm just trying to find my mom. It's like, okay, sir, we'll help you. But is everything okay? No, not everything's not okay. And they're like, poor guy. Yeah, no, we've all been there, man. It's like, no, apple. And like, he can't get it out in time. And everyone's like, man, he's hungry. Yeah, I've been there. It's like, no. It's like, I'm trying to, God damn it, get out of here. And unfortunately for like Blaze and Blaze's mom, like the mom ends up in a romantic relationship with one of her coworkers, like a female coworker, after they like hang out at a club party and such. And one of my favorite lines is that like the coworker's like, hey, do you want to go? And she's like, no, but I can't go yet. The bartender's here. But the coworker's like, no, that's but mishears her and thinks like, no, I don't need to go to the bathroom. I've already went. And somehow it ends up romantic in that regard. And Blaze hooks up with a girl that he really likes, to the point of lying about where he lives and his living situation. And unfortunately for him, the girl gets radicalized because he basically went to a party full of anarchists who were like part of like these riots going on about, I forgot exactly what, they're not really clear, it's just corporation bad. And unfortunately for Blaze and his girlfriend, they get a hold of a grenade. And the guy's like, yeah, I bought these grenades online through means. I won't tell you how I got them. Just be careful with them. And of course, that guy gets arrested during a riot because they think he threw a bottle at a police officer when that was actually Blaze's girlfriend. They just happen to see him raising a bottle in the air, and they're like, hey, that's the guy who threw the bottle! And he's like, shit. And unfortunately, like the best joke is also the darkest joke of this movie, is the grenade. Mike, what did you think about this gag?
God, I have not been this tense watching a gag like that in a while. I thought that grenade was like, one of those cute looking flash drives or something, but the payoff for that is just...
So basically, like, how the joke goes, Bree, is that they get a grenade, they're at a restaurant, and the girlfriend's like, I'm feeling spirited and inspired to fight back against the man. So they leave, she pulls a pin on a grenade, puts it into a purse that just so happens to belong to the school counselor who was there at the restaurant. And it takes about a good 5 to 7 minutes for the grenade to finally go off in the movie. And you're just sitting there like, was this one of those like gimmicky grenade shaped lighters, or like it's full of tequila or something like that? And everyone is like, oh, this is like what Mike said, this is one of those fancy USB drives. Let's just put it in. It's going to help make your computer work. And again, the pin has been pulled. It's been like a full 24 hours. So you're just kind of wondering what the hell is up with this grenade. And Mike and I were both just kind of like, explode already, do something, tell us if it's fake or not. And then she finds out that like, after fidgeting with the grenade as it goes into her computer, she's like, it is making my internet faster. That's amazing. And it's like, okay, thank God. It's one of those internet, and then the grenade explodes inside the school. And it's like, oh shit. Unfortunately, it kills both the guy and the counselor. And the last thing the counselor hears is the dad saying, I don't care what people say about me. I accept who I am. And it's like, this is depressing. Could you imagine your last moments hearing a guy treat you like a therapist when you are absolutely not getting paid enough to be a therapist?
God.
And even at the end when like Blaze says like, you know what, this is not my thing. You do your thing. I don't actually live in the rough parts of France. I am not taking care of my sick mom. And the girl's like, I understand, but here. And the girl hands him a gun And she goes back in. It's like, I'm going to shoot the president of this rock company from doing whatever. And it's just like, that's how the movie ends. Though the mid-credit scene ends with the husband and wife talking, and the wife is like, yeah, I just realized I'm just going to divorce you and live with my coworker that I have romantic relationships with. And the husband's like, oh, okay. French filmmaking will never not amaze me. As for animation-wise, it's fine. It reminds me more of like Archer than Angela Anaconda. It's like if you took the visual style of Angela Anaconda and then skinned it over how an episode of Archer looks like.
Yeah, like it's got the polish of Archer, but the actual like aesthetic of Anaconda.
You know what it also kind of reminds me of visually? Terry Gilliam's animation from Monty Python's Flying Circus.
That works too. That is a good example and such. If you like that kind of stuff, I highly recommend finding a way to watch this movie because I don't know who would pick it up. I think it's too experimental for G Kids or Netflix. I think this has to go to like a boutique label distributor.
I can see Criterion picking up.
Like Janus Films?
Criterion, Vinegar Syndrome, Death Crocodile, like those guys. I don't think this is going to find mainstream appeal. Which is fine. Not all of them have to. This has a lot more charming young adult to adult themes and topics that they would find enjoyment out of. Because I don't think a kid would like this movie at all. So,
you know what movie will have a lot more mainstream appeal? Especially because Cartoon Saloon is behind it? Julian.
Julian, my new favorite animated film of the year.
Oh, the shit was so good.
So this is based off of the book called Julian as a Mermaid, which is about a young boy in the Dominican side of Brooklyn, and just finding a coming-of-age story about him finding comfort in who he is, and not just his interests, but also his queer identity. And it's a back and forward between him and his abuela. And the abuela doesn't really quite know how to react to Julian. Because Julian is a lot more feminine, a lot more vibrant than a lot of boys. So she thinks like, you gotta look like a boy. You gotta like male-centric things like baseball cards. But she doesn't quite know how to handle that. And even like her friends and so many of the people in this movie make like really passive judgmental observations about Julian. Like, man, his hair's too long for a boy. And it's just like, be quiet. Or how he gets along with the ladies, but he's not like a ladies' man, quote unquote, and such. And it's such a beautiful, small-scale story that I don't mind that a lot of this movie takes place within the house that Abuela lives in. This was like a big issue with like Earwig and the Witch, where everything took place in the house and nowhere else. And it wasn't as interesting or compelling as that it could have been until the very end. But with Julian, it's a beautiful, really down-to-earth story. And it feels so refreshing to be this like proudly, openly queer story in an era right now where we literally had some of the biggest animation studios in the world say, we don't want to make queer stories. And it's not even like Julian is subtle, but it doesn't beat you over the head with it. It's not like that. What's that movie that like came out a few years ago, Bros or something like that, which was like a good queer rom-com, but had like its marketing be its whole like, you better support this or you hate queer people. And it's like,
you don't have to lay it on that thick.
Yeah, even if they were joking or not, it doesn't matter. It's just, it was too abrasive about it. While here, like the mermaid metaphor works as a queer allegory, I would say as partially a immigration allegory because of how Abuela's backstory of growing up, I think, in the Dominican Republic. I just want to make sure I got that correct. Where she basically, like, just like in The Little Mermaid, gave up everything to move somewhere else. There's a lot of that kind of metaphor, like the mermaid metaphor of just like giving up free, flowing, vibrant freedom of how you feel to fit how everyone else wants you to feel or be and such. And at first I was wondering, like, how deep does this magical mermaid stuff go? It's not really a Ponyo or a Lou over the wall thing.
No.
They really focus it on as a metaphorical context or subtext.
Right. Well, I had actually done, after you watched a little bit more research about the book. So the author, Jessica Love, she originally kind of came up with this story while she made her Broadway debut maybe about 12 years ago. now, and she was in this play with Mary Louise Parker. And originally, the plan for the book was Julian was to meet with like drag queens, and they're gonna go to like a drag ball that was inspired by RuPaul's Drag Race. But like the mermaid thing kind of came later upon doing the research. Just, I'm sure Cameron, you know this, but mermaids do have like a big symbolism to like the transgender community.
I found out, like, when they were talking about this big mermaid parade thing, I was like, is this just a thing for the movie? But no, it's a real event. And even in like the movie, you could see men and women dressed up as mermaids, like really sea foamy colors.
Yeah.
And
it's
you can
sort
see
of carnival-y.
Yeah. You could literally see men dressed up as like mermaids. I'd say I saw a few drag queens in there. And it's such a beautiful movie, too. It's so visually distinct from Cartoon Saloon's other movies. I love Cartoon Saloon's visual style, like the angular, blocky, Irish folklore art look to all of their movies. And even though some people will point out that Julian looks more modern cartoon, do not say CalArts. I will officially block you on any social media platform if I hear you say that.
Honestly, like, we need more movies like this. I mean, is Julian, like, the most revolutionary, you know, oh my god, this is, like, genre-changing? No, but it's a sweet movie, and it's a great queer movie, which I have to watch this, but I've been recommending it a lot. So one of the influences that Love had was also the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning, which is about like the Brooklyn dance hall scene, and also coincidentally enough was the inspiration for the newest revival of Cats. And actually one of the gentlemen who was involved in the original documentary is involved with that production of Cats, which is the only good production of Cats because they're actually not cats.
That's great. It's like, I liked this story, and I liked the back and forward between Abuela and Julian. And like, you could see their perspectives and understand the struggle, even though like, yes, technically there's not a whole lot of conflict in this movie that's like outward conflict. Like, Julian goes to the pool with his Abuela and friends and gets, well, not harassed, but talked down to by some boys who are like, oh, look at this fruity outfit you're wearing. And it's just like, that's it. That's like the main conflict that almost pushes Julian back into the closet. And it's like, and that's fine. It's a very Ghibli way of approaching conflicts.
Yeah. And also kind of, I feel like goes with the overall like message. And this is again where the Paris is Burning thing is that basically the whole premise of that is, so if Paris is burning is that, you know, obviously like this is the early 1990s, and a lot of the narrative of Paris is Burning is that, you know, drag queens were rejected, you know, by their families but found acceptance. And this play, so the idea was, what if they actually had support from their birth families?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I do like the side characters. Not all of them leave an impression. The three girlfriends don't really have anything going on.
Yeah, they're fine. They're cute. They're fine.
Yeah, they're fine. Though I love the convenience store, the bodega owner.
I loved him so much.
Let's see, what's his name? Yeah, Fran. That dude was the best. Openly supportive, friendly, the right proper icon of masculinity. Just friendly, loving, and supportive. And then also like the Abuela's three friends where she plays dominoes with were fun. They all had their distinct designs to them, and the lovely watercolor look of everything. It's just,
yes.
This reminds me of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur in the sense that Brooklyn feels very lived in, or this part of Brooklyn is alive with culture and such. It felt very lived in, even before the film was ever made.
Yeah, it reminded me of that and In the Heights.
I was just about to say In the Heights.
I actually got a lot of that, not just because this is an Afro-Latina family.
But Usnavi is also Dominican as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, the music in this movie slaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like the watercolor visual aesthetics, like the only Ponyo connections you can make are how the fish are designed and such, especially the whale shark that carries Julian to the mermaid parade and such. And the running on top of the big mermaid thing was really pretty and beautiful. That scene at the end where Abuela and Julian are hugging in the ocean, that nice comforting moment, and everyone gets in the water, and it's an emotionally driven movie that is gorgeous, funny, charming, just as good as you think a Cartoon Saloon movie would be. And it's a good example of what Cartoon Saloon can do when Tom Moore and Nora Toomey aren't the ones directing stuff. Listen, I'm looking forward to American Spirits. I think that's going to be great. But they're doing something that more studios need to do, and that's find new talent. Ghibli or Pixar or Disney, they need to future-proof so they can keep finding new talent, because these people worked on other things. The director, Louise Bagnall, wrote and created the Oscar-nominated Late Afternoon short, which is about a grandmother who is not really all there, or just disconnected from the world and her memories and such. Which is funny because there was a film at Annecy playing that's all about a parental figure going through Alzheimer's and such. Tangles, which again, someone needs to pick that movie up. I want it. And Julian is good. I'm shocked that G Kids hasn't already made a grab at this movie. It's Cartoon Saloon. Don't they like Cartoon Saloon? Or I don't get it. Apparently some rumors are going around that Viva Kids is going to pick this up, which...
Good for them if they do.
Yeah, it'd be their best movie by default. By a long shot. But yeah, I want people to see this. I think a lot of younger kids of color and kids who are struggling with their queer identity or queer awakening would love this. Would find this movie very useful. I think parents would love this movie just because, in general.
And you know what? I think parents would appreciate it because it's overtly queer without being traumatic.
Right. It's not just a queer
It's
drama.
age appropriate.
Yeah. You can have queer stories without the trauma that comes with that. I understand why it's important to some stories like that, but still, we don't need a trauma story every time.
That's just for me. Yeah. I get all the trauma.
I'm hogging it all. I'm going to be
nom.
I'm going to be on an episode of Hoarders because I'm hoarding the trauma.
Yeah, making loud hissing noises like the cat and Into the Shadows, that.
But yeah, I think Julian has a good chance of getting picked up. I think it will be. Who knows? Maybe after this tonight, tomorrow will be hey, we got picked up. But we'll see.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I know, unfortunately, because of the times that we live in, this, harmless movie is just going to be a hot button issue because the book, fortunately, is one of the most banned books, which I hate that that's not a shocker for me personally, but I really hope that people do pick this up and it doesn't just fall into
digital only or something. Yeah, I think that's it for this episode. Next time, we will talk about Minions and Monsters alongside Chimney Town, which is a sequel to Propel of Chimney Town. I forgot what it was called, Chimney Town Frozen in Time. And We Are Aliens. And that'll be it.
And until next time, Bree, where can everyone find you online?
If you wish to find me on the interwebs, you can find me at crazylemur.bsky.social. I'm also on Instagram at LemursRule1, where I'm slowly getting better at posting shit, and shameless self-promo time. I know the day we're recording it, it's technically July 1st, but fuck it, it's still Pride to me. The latest episode of Late Crap, which you can find now on RenegadePopCulture.com, is out featuring 2002's Ben and Arthur. It's a very bad movie. I suffered through it, but the one-liners and jokes are incredible. I mean, if you like homophobic brothers trying to give their brother holy water potion, boy, do I have a movie for you.
Oh,
Cameron,
boy.
where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at camseyeView.biz. I have my own website called camseyeView.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I am a contributor to Media Magpies where I write editorials about animation and live-action films. My newest two are about why I love to support foreign animation and the weird hatred that the new horror production pipeline is getting, which the hate is overblown for that, y'all. It's dumb. And my new one, which will be coming out soon, will be about what if we had Best Animated Feature back when Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2 were new, and would they have still won Best Animated Feature? Because by God, we're going to have to talk about the fact that Toy Story 5 might get a Best Animated Feature spot, so we'll talk about that next time. You can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeView. I'm going to reboot that thing soon. I'm going to readjust a few things and make it more up to date and such, so that's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Renegade Pop Culture. You can also find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Renegade Pop Culture. You can find us on YouTube at Renegade Pop Culture or Organized Zero. Find us on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.